Mark Reynolds was no stranger to hard work or heartache. At 38, he had spent nearly a decade raising his teenage son, Noah, alone after losing his wife to cancer. Life hadn't been easy, but Mark wasn't one to give up. Between fixing cars at his mechanic shop during the day and juggling parenting duties at night, he somehow managed to keep things together, for Noah's sake more than anything else. But on this particular evening, as Mark drove home along a deserted stretch of road, life decided to throw him another curveball. The sun had dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the cracked asphalt. The only sounds were the hum of his truck engine and the occasional rustle of leaves in the wind. That's when he saw them, a pair of small figures slumped against the guardrail up ahead. At first glance, they looked like discarded bundles, forgotten by the world. But as Mark slowed down and squinted through the darkness, he realized they were children. 2 kids, barely more than skeletons wrapped in oversized clothes, lay motionless on the side of the road. Panic surged through him as he pulled over sharply, grabbing a bottle of water and a blanket from his truck before rushing to their side. "Hey, can you hear me?" he called out, crouching beside the older child, a girl who looked about 12. Her face was pale, her lips cracked and dry, but she stirred weakly at the sound of his voice. Beside her lay a younger boy, maybe 8 or 9, curled into a ball with dirt smudged across his cheeks. "Water?" the girl whispered hoarsely, her eyes fluttering open. "Please." Mark quickly unscrewed the cap and held the bottle to her lips, letting her sip slowly. She gestured toward the boy, and he did the same for him, cradling the child's head gently as he drank. After a few moments, the boy began to stir, blinking blearily at the unfamiliar face hovering above him. "What happened to you two?" Mark asked softly once they seemed stable enough to talk. "Where are your parents?" The girl hesitated, clutching her brother protectively. "Our mom. She died," she said, her voice trembling. "And our uncle, he kicked us out. We don't have anyone." Her words hit Mark like a punch to the gut. He glanced between the siblings, taking in their gaunt faces and tattered clothing. They couldn't have been on the streets for long. They still clung to each other with the kind of desperate hope that comes from believing someone might save them. Without thinking twice, Mark scooped up the boy and helped the girl to her feet. "You're coming home with me," he said firmly. "Just for tonight. We'll figure everything else out later." The girl nodded gratefully, tears streaming down her dirty face. As they climbed into the truck, Mark couldn't shake the weight of what he'd just stumbled upon. These kids weren't just lost. They were abandoned, cast aside like trash by people who should have protected them. Back at the house, Mark tucked them into spare beds, feeding them soup and listening as the girl introduced herself as Emma and her little brother as Liam. They didn't say much beyond that, too exhausted to share more. But even in their silence, Mark could feel the enormity of their pain and the responsibility now resting on his shoulders. What neither he nor the kids realized was that this act of kindness would set off a chain reaction neither could have predicted. Little did Mark know, rescuing these siblings would uncover secrets that would change all their lives forever. Over the next few days, as Emma and Liam regained their strength, pieces of their story began to emerge. It wasn't easy for them to talk about. The memories were painful, raw wounds reopened with every word, but Mark coaxed it out of them gently, offering reassurance and patience whenever they hesitated. Their mother, Claire, had been everything to them. She worked tirelessly as a nurse, often pulling double shifts just to make ends meet. Despite their modest lifestyle, she filled their days with laughter, bedtime stories, and unwavering love. But then, illness struck without warning. Cancer swept through her body like wildfire, leaving no time for goodbyes. Within months, she was gone. After her death, the siblings found themselves under the care of Claire's brother-in-law, her late husband's older brother, and his wife. At first, the couple promised to honor Claire's memory by looking after her children, but soon cracks began to show. They resented the added responsibility, blaming Emma and Liam for Claire's supposed financial ruin. Rumors swirled that she'd left behind debts, though Emma later admitted she didn't think those claims were true. The neglect started subtly. Skipped meals, forgotten school fees, and harsh words hurled during arguments. Then came outright cruelty. One night, after a particularly heated fight, the uncle threw their belongings onto the porch and told them never to come back. "You're not our problem anymore," he snarled before slamming the door shut. For weeks, Emma and Liam wandered aimlessly, surviving on scraps from convenience stores and sleeping wherever they could find shelter. A bus stop bench here, an abandoned shed there. Emma refused to let Liam cry in front of strangers, putting on a brave face even when despair clawed at her chest. By the time Mark found them, they were mere shadows of the vibrant kids they used to be. At Mark's house, things slowly improved. He fed them hearty meals, bought them new clothes, and made sure they felt safe. But adjustment wasn't seamless. Noah, Mark's teenage son, wasn't thrilled about sharing his space or his father's attention with two strangers. "Why do we have to take care of them?" Noah grumbled one morning as he watched Emma clean up breakfast dishes. "They're not even family." "They need help, Noah," Mark replied firmly. "What would you want someone to do if it were you out there?" Noah rolled his eyes but didn't argue further. Still, tension lingered between him and Emma, who took charge of caring for Liam much like a second parent. She bristled whenever Noah teased her younger brother, snapping back with surprising ferocity for someone so small. Despite these bumps, moments of connection began to shine through. One evening, Mark caught Liam giggling uncontrollably as Noah showed him how to play a video game. The sight warmed his heart. It reminded him of simpler times, back when Noah was still young enough to laugh at silly things. Emma, too, started opening up, albeit cautiously. She helped around the house, tidying up after meals and folding laundry while Liam napped. When Mark thanked her one afternoon, she shrugged shyly. "Mom always said helping others makes your own burdens lighter." Her words stayed with Mark long after she walked away. There was wisdom beyond her years in that statement, a resilience forged by hardship and loss. Yet beneath her tough exterior, he sensed vulnerability, a fear that this newfound stability might vanish as quickly as it appeared. Meanwhile, strange clues about the kids' past began surfacing. While unpacking their backpacks to wash their clothes, Mark noticed items that seemed out of place for children living on the streets. Designer sneakers, expensive jackets, and a leather-bound notebook embossed with initials he didn't recognize. Inside the notebook were cryptic notes and letters addressed to Claire, written in formal language that hinted at wealth. One day, while rummaging through Liam's backpack for a missing toy, Mark discovered a folded piece of paper tucked inside a side pocket. On it was printed the name of a law firm along with an address in the city. Curious, he approached Emma later that evening. "Where did you get this?" he asked, holding up the paper. Emma froze, her cheeks flushing red. For a moment, she looked like she might lie, but then she sighed heavily. "It was Mom's," she admitted quietly. "She kept it hidden in her room. I don't know what it means, but sometimes people called the house asking for her. They sounded important." Mark frowned, sensing there was more to the story than Emma, or anyone else, realized. Whatever secrets Claire had taken to her grave, they clearly hadn't died with her. And now, thanks to fate or perhaps sheer luck, those secrets had landed squarely in Mark's lap. As he tucked the paper away, resolving to investigate further, he couldn't help but wonder, what kind of life had Claire led before she became a mother? And how would uncovering the truth affect Emma and Liam? For now, though, one thing remained clear: they needed stability more than answers. And Mark was determined to provide it, no matter what lay ahead. Mark couldn't shake the feeling that the piece of paper with the law firm's address was more than just a random scrap. It nagged at him like an unsolved puzzle, urging him to dig deeper. After wrestling with the decision for days, wondering if he was overstepping or meddling in something private, he finally decided to call the number listed on the paper. If it could help Emma and Liam, it was worth the risk. The receptionist who answered sounded polished and professional, as though used to dealing with high-profile clients. "Harrington and Associates," she said crisply. "How may I assist you?" Mark hesitated, unsure how to explain his situation without sounding suspicious. I found some documents belonging to a woman named Claire," he began cautiously. "There's a letter addressed to her from your firm, and I think there might be important information tied to her kids." There was a pause on the other end of the line. Then the receptionist replied, "Please hold for Mr. Harrington." A few moments later, a deep voice came on the line. "This is Richard Harrington. Who am I speaking with?" Mark introduced himself briefly, explaining that he'd taken in 2 children, Claire's kids, after finding them abandoned on the side of the road. "They're struggling," he added, "but I noticed some things that suggest Claire might have been connected to someone important. Is there anything you can tell me?" The silence that followed was heavy, almost suffocating. When Richard finally spoke, his tone had shifted, from curiosity to disbelief, then to something resembling awe. "Claire Harrington?" he asked quietly. "Are you certain these are her children?" "Yes," Mark replied. "Emma and Liam. They mentioned their mom passed away recently." Richard exhaled sharply, emotion threading through his words. "Claire was my daughter. She left home years ago after a falling out with her mother and me. We hadn't heard from her since, until news of her death reached us last month. We assumed she had no surviving family." Mark's stomach dropped. He hadn't expected this, not even close. "Your daughter?" he repeated, stunned. "You're saying you're their grandparents?" "That's correct," Richard confirmed, his voice thick with regret. "We thought we'd lost everything, that our chance to reconcile with her was gone forever. But grandchildren," he trailed off, overwhelmed. "Can we meet them? Please." Mark agreed to arrange a meeting but warned Richard that Emma and Liam were still healing from trauma. "They've been through a lot," he emphasized. "If you really want to be part of their lives, you'll need to earn their trust." When Mark shared the news with Emma and Liam later that evening, they reacted with a mix of shock, confusion, and fear. Emma clutched Liam protectively, her eyes wide. "What does this mean?" she whispered. "Do we have to leave?" "No one's taking you away," Mark assured her quickly. "But these people, they're your mom's parents, your grandparents. They didn't know about you until now. If you want to meet them, I'll make sure it happens on your terms." Liam looked up at his sister, uncertainty written all over his face. "Will they be mad at us?" he asked softly. Emma shook her head, though she didn't seem entirely convinced herself. "I don't know, buddy, but we'll figure it out together." The meeting took place the following weekend at Mark's house. Richard Harrington arrived with his wife, Evelyn, a tall, elegant couple who looked completely out of place in Mark's modest living room. Their tailored suits and expensive jewelry screamed wealth, but their expressions were raw with grief and longing. "Emma? Liam?" Richard began tentatively, kneeling to their level. His voice cracked under the weight of unspoken apologies. "We're so sorry we weren't there for you. For Claire. Can you forgive us?" Tears streamed down Evelyn's face as she reached out hesitantly, as if afraid they'd pull away. "You look so much like her," she murmured, her gaze fixed on Emma. "Your eyes, they're hers." Emma stared back, her own eyes filling with tears. She didn't say anything at first, letting the enormity of the moment sink in. Finally, she whispered, "Why did Mom leave? Why didn't she tell us about you?" Evelyn exchanged a pained glance with Richard before answering. "We made mistakes, sweetheart. Terrible ones. We pushed her away when she needed us most, and she chose to protect you by keeping you far from us. But none of that excuses what happened, or what you've endured." The conversation stretched on, awkward yet heartfelt, as both sides navigated unfamiliar territory. By the end of the day, Emma and Liam agreed to visit their grandparents' estate the following weekend, a tentative step toward building a relationship. But Mark remained wary. Wealthy or not, the Harringtons were strangers to the kids, and their sudden reappearance threatened to upend the fragile stability he'd worked so hard to create. He voiced his concerns to Richard before they left. "They've been through enough upheaval," Mark said firmly. "Money won't fix that. What they need is consistency, love, and time to heal. If you truly care about them, respect that." Richard nodded, looking humbled. "You're right, and thank you for everything you've done for them. You've given them a foundation we couldn't." As the weeks passed, Emma and Liam began spending weekends at the Harrington estate, learning about their heritage and slowly bonding with their grandparents. The mansion was overwhelming at first, its sprawling grounds and endless luxuries a stark contrast to the simplicity of Mark's home. But the Harringtons went out of their way to make the kids feel welcome. Still, when Sunday evenings rolled around, Emma and Liam always insisted on returning to Mark's house. "This is where we belong," Emma told him one night, hugging Liam close. "With you." Mark smiled, relief washing over him. No matter what the future held, he knew one thing for certain. Family wasn't defined by blood or wealth. It was built on love, sacrifice, and the willingness to stand by each other no matter what. The weeks turned into months as Emma and Liam settled into a rhythm of splitting their time between Mark's home and the Harrington estate. At first, the transition felt jarring, not just for the kids but for everyone involved. The contrast between the two environments was impossible to ignore. Mark's cozy, cluttered house buzzed with warmth and laughter, while the Harrington mansion loomed large and formal, its polished surfaces reflecting wealth but lacking intimacy. For Emma and Liam, navigating these dual realities proved challenging. On weekends at the estate, they were showered with gifts, expensive clothes, gadgets, even private tutors. But none of it filled the void left by years of neglect and loss. They craved connection, not material possessions, and often retreated to quiet corners of the mansion where they could simply be themselves. Meanwhile, back at Mark's house, life continued much as it always had. Noah begrudgingly helped Liam practice his math homework, while Emma joined Mark in the kitchen, learning how to cook meals that reminded her of her mom. These moments grounded them, providing a sense of normalcy amidst the whirlwind of change. But tensions simmered beneath the surface. The Harringtons struggled to reconcile their desire to do right by their grandchildren with their ingrained habits of privilege and control. Evelyn once suggested hiring a full-time nanny for the kids, only to have Emma snap, "We already have a dad. His name is Mark." Richard flinched visibly at the rebuke but said nothing, realizing too late that throwing money at the problem wouldn't fix it. Mark, sensing the growing divide, decided to intervene. He invited the Harringtons over for dinner one evening, a bold move considering how out of place they'd feel in his modest home. But he wanted them to see what truly mattered to Emma and Liam: the simple joys of shared meals, inside jokes, and unconditional support. The night started awkwardly. Richard fidgeted with his tie, clearly uncomfortable in the cramped dining room, while Evelyn eyed the mismatched chairs and scuffed tablecloth with thinly veiled disdain. But as the meal progressed, something shifted. Noah cracked a joke about Liam's video game obsession, sending the younger boy into fits of giggles. Emma recounted a funny story from school, her eyes lighting up as she spoke. Even Mark chimed in, sharing tales of Claire's childhood mischief based on snippets Emma had told him. By dessert, the ice had melted, at least partially. Evelyn dabbed at her eyes with a napkin, her earlier stiffness replaced by genuine emotion. "This is what we've been missing," she admitted softly. "Not the food or the furniture, but this, the laughter, the love." Richard nodded, looking thoughtful. "We didn't understand before," he confessed. "We thought giving them everything would make up for lost time. But it's clear now that what they need most isn't money. It's stability. And you've given them that, Mark." Mark leaned forward, his tone earnest. "I'm not trying to replace you. I know you're their grandparents and they need you too. But if we're going to do this, to build a relationship that lasts, you'll have to meet them halfway. That means letting go of some of your expectations and meeting them where they are." The Harringtons agreed, though it wasn't easy. Old habits die hard, especially for people accustomed to having their way. But slowly, they began making changes. Instead of lavish gifts, they focused on experiences, taking Emma and Liam to museums, parks, and family-friendly outings. They learned to listen more than talk, asking questions about their interests rather than dictating plans. And perhaps most importantly, they embraced Mark's role in the kids' lives, acknowledging that he was as much a parent to them as anyone else. Emma and Liam, in turn, grew more comfortable around their grandparents. They started calling them Grandpa and Grandma, tentative at first but increasingly natural over time. During one particularly poignant moment, Liam shyly asked Richard to teach him how to play chess, a hobby Claire had loved but never passed down to her children. Watching them huddle over the board, heads bent in concentration, brought tears to Evelyn's eyes. Noah also matured through the experience, shedding some of his initial resentment toward Emma and Liam. Seeing how much they relied on each other, and how hard Mark worked to keep everyone happy, made him realize how lucky he was to have such a devoted father. He began pitching in more around the house, helping Emma with chores and teaching Liam new tricks on his gaming console. As the seasons changed, so did the dynamics within this unconventional blended family. Mark used part of the financial support provided by the Harringtons to expand his mechanic shop, creating jobs for struggling families in the community. In return, the Harringtons established a foundation in Claire's name, dedicated to supporting children in similar situations, those abandoned or neglected due to family disputes. Through it all, Emma and Liam thrived. With the combined love and guidance of both Mark and their grandparents, they found strength in their roots while embracing new opportunities. Emma excelled in school, her confidence soaring as she discovered talents she never knew she had. Liam blossomed under the attention, his once shy demeanor giving way to a mischievous charm that reminded everyone of Claire. And Mark? He found unexpected joy in the chaos of it all. What had started as a chance rescue had grown into something far greater, a second chance not just for Emma and Liam, but for himself and the Harringtons too. Together, they proved that true connections are built not on wealth or status, but on mutual respect, effort, and an unwavering commitment to doing what's best for the ones you love. Years passed, and the once fragile bonds between Mark, Emma, Liam, the Harringtons, and Noah grew into an unshakable foundation of love, trust, and resilience. What had started as a chance encounter on a deserted road had transformed into something extraordinary, a testament to the power of compassion, second chances, and the courage to bridge divides. Emma blossomed into a confident young woman with dreams bigger than anyone could have imagined. Her academic achievements earned her scholarships to prestigious universities, but she never forgot where she came from. During school breaks, she returned home, not to the Harrington estate, but to Mark's cozy house, where she helped care for Liam and volunteered at local shelters. She often spoke publicly about overcoming adversity, crediting Mark and her grandparents for showing her that family isn't defined by blood alone, but by the love you choose to give and receive. Liam, now a teenager, followed in his sister's footsteps, excelling in both academics and sports. His passion for chess, sparked by those early lessons with Richard, turned into a talent that earned him regional championships. More importantly, he carried himself with a quiet confidence, knowing he was surrounded by people who believed in him no matter what. The Harringtons, too, underwent a profound transformation. Once distant and formal, they became pillars of warmth and generosity within their community. Inspired by Mark's humility and dedication, they used their wealth to create lasting change. The foundation they established in Claire's name flourished, providing resources and support to children caught in fractured families. They also opened their estate to host events for underprivileged youth, offering mentorship programs and scholarships to help them build brighter futures. Mark continued to expand his mechanic shop, turning it into a hub for skill building and employment opportunities. Many of his apprentices came from broken homes or challenging backgrounds, much like Emma and Liam had experienced. He took pride in teaching them not just technical skills but also life lessons about integrity, perseverance, and the importance of giving back. On the wall of his shop hung a sign that read, "Family starts here." Their blended family became a beacon of hope within the community. Neighbors who had once whispered disapprovingly about Mark taking in two strangers now sought advice from him and the Harringtons on parenting, relationships, and overcoming struggles. The story of how a single dad and a billionaire couple came together to raise two abandoned siblings inspired countless acts of kindness and unity. One particularly touching outcome was the transformation of Evelyn herself. Once rigid and aloof, she embraced her role as a grandmother with open arms. She began volunteering at schools, reading stories to children and organizing fundraisers for educational initiatives. "I lost so much time with Claire," she confessed during one speech. "But through Emma and Liam, I found a way to honor her memory and to make amends for the mistakes we made." Even small gestures, like neighbors organizing food drives or helping elderly residents with errands, multiplied because of the culture of compassion they'd ignited. A local teacher started a free after-school tutoring program for kids in low-income neighborhoods, citing Mark's example as her motivation. Another family adopted a child after hearing Emma and Liam's story, realizing that love and stability can overcome even the toughest beginnings. Emma and Liam's high school graduation marked a milestone for the entire family. They celebrated with a backyard party filled with balloons, music, and laughter. As Mark watched Evelyn chase Liam around the yard while Richard proudly snapped photos, he felt a deep sense of gratitude for the courage Emma and Liam had shown, for the family they'd built together, and for the countless lives their story had touched. Later that evening, as the kids fell asleep and the adults gathered on the porch, Mark pulled out an old photo album and flipped through its pages. There were pictures of Liam learning to ride a bike, Emma winning her first science fair, and countless snapshots of holidays, birthdays, and everyday moments that told the story of their unconventional yet loving family. "Do you remember this one?" Mark asked, pointing to a photo of him and Emma standing outside the courthouse years ago, shortly after meeting the Harringtons. "That was the day everything changed." Emma smiled, her eyes glistening with emotion. "It felt like we'd won more than just answers. We'd won our future. And look at us now," Liam added proudly. "We're unstoppable." The conversation shifted to dreams and goals. Emma wanted to become a lawyer to advocate for children's rights, while Liam dreamed of becoming an engineer. Noah chimed in, teasing that he planned to take over Mark's mechanic shop someday. The Harringtons listened intently, marveling at how much their grandchildren had grown. On the wall inside their home hung a framed quote, "Sometimes miracles aren't loud. They're quiet acts of courage and kindness." It served as a reminder of their journey and the profound truth they discovered, that even the smallest acts of compassion can create waves of change, touching lives in ways no one could predict. As Mark kissed Emma and Liam goodnight and tucked them into bed, he realized something profound. This patchwork family wasn't just a product of circumstance. It was exactly what they all needed all along. Together, they had proven that love knows no boundaries, that brokenness can lead to beauty, and that kindness has the power to heal even the deepest wounds. And so, the miracle unveiled itself, not in grand gestures or dramatic twists of fate, but in the quiet moments of connection, resilience, and hope. Their story was proof that sometimes, the greatest miracles are the ones we least expect, the ones born from compassion, courage, and the willingness to open our hearts to others. Because when we choose to lift each other up, we rise together. Years later, Mark stood in the doorway of his home, watching as Emma adjusted her graduation cap in the mirror. She was poised to deliver the valedictorian speech at her college commencement, a feat that once seemed impossible for a girl who'd been abandoned on the side of a road. Beside her, Liam scrolled through his phone, already planning his next chess tournament. Their laughter filled the room, a reminder of how far they'd come since that fateful night when Mark had stopped to help two fragile, frightened children. As he sipped his morning coffee, Mark reflected on how much their lives had intertwined. What had started as a simple act of kindness, stopping for strangers in need, had turned into something miraculous. A second chance not just for Emma and Liam, but for everyone involved. In rescuing them, Mark had unknowingly saved himself, rediscovering purpose and love in ways he never thought possible after losing his wife. That evening, the entire family gathered around the dinner table, sharing stories about their day. Evelyn recounted a recent volunteer event she'd organized for underserved youth, while Richard proudly showed off a photo of Liam accepting his latest chess trophy. Noah teased Emma about her nerdy law school ambitions, earning an exaggerated eye roll in return. The warmth in the room was palpable, a testament to the life they'd built together out of broken pieces. After dinner, Mark pulled out the old photo album and flipped through its pages with the kids. There were pictures of Emma and Liam as toddlers, wide-eyed and uncertain, standing awkwardly in the Harrington mansion. Other photos captured happier moments, family game nights, holiday celebrations, and quiet evenings spent laughing over takeout pizza. Each snapshot told a story of resilience, growth, and love. "Do you remember this one?" Emma asked, pointing to a picture of her and Liam sitting on Mark's shoulders during a summer picnic. "That was the first time we felt like we belonged somewhere." Mark smiled, ruffling her hair affectionately. "You've always belonged here with us." Later that night, as the house grew quiet and the kids drifted off to sleep, Mark and Evelyn sat together on the porch, staring up at the stars. "I used to think I was rescuing them," Mark said softly. "But now I know they rescued me too. They gave me a reason to keep going when I didn't think I could." Evelyn nodded, her voice thick with emotion. "And they helped us heal. Losing Claire nearly destroyed us, but finding Emma and Liam gave us a second chance to be the parents and grandparents we should have been all along." On the wall inside hung the framed quote that had become their guiding philosophy. "Sometimes miracles aren't loud. They're quiet acts of courage and kindness." It was a reminder that even the smallest gestures, stopping for strangers, offering shelter, believing in someone when no one else would, could change lives in ways no one could predict. As Mark tucked the kids into bed one last time before Emma moved across the country for law school, he realized something profound. This patchwork family wasn't just a product of circumstance. It was exactly what they all needed all along. Together, they had proven that love knows no boundaries, that brokenness can lead to beauty, and that kindness has the power to heal even the deepest wounds. Their story was proof that sometimes the hardest roads lead to the most beautiful destinations. And in walking those roads together, they had created something truly miraculous. A family bound not by blood, but by choice, sacrifice, and unwavering love. Because when we choose to lift each other up, we rise together.